that council asked you about, okay?
Yes, sir.
First of all, in this third notebook, we have some phone logs. In notebook 3, at tab number 3, there's some phone logs. One says DLR for De La Rosa, and the second one says Lara. Let me direct your attention to the AT&T, looks like a phone invoice with, all the numbers that were called. Is this 874-8941, is that your phone number?
Yes, sir, it is. It's assigned to the police department, to me.
Okay, and this notation here, that's my writing on there, just to let me keep track of, what these are. But is this number then a police number on the phone that you carry?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Arbitrator, again, I would respectfully caution that now all of McAllen has the cell phone number for this lieutenant, and we need to be careful about that, because now his number's out there in the public.
Well, that document has been withdrawn,
No concern for
if
this.
I'm on the right.
Well, I know, but council just spoke it.
All right, okay, I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm just making sure I'm not gonna offer it into evidence, I just.
Why don't we strike the number from the record?
He's actually on
All right.
a different one from you, I think.
But Rick, you just said it out loud, so everybody in McAllen now knows his cell phone, so
Okay, I'm
please.
sorry,
He's
what do
an
you want me
officer.
to do?
All right, I forgot it's being televised, so.
Yes.
What do you want me to do?
Well, there's nothing to do now, his number's out there, and any scumbag can call him now, so, we gotta be careful.
Lieutenant, is this a concern for you?
No, sir, not at all.
Okay?
If you need to get another number, you can, right?
I believe so.
Now, let me direct your attention on you had testified earlier that you had a couple of conversations with Sergeant De La Rosa on the evening of December 3rd. You recall that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And on this particular phone log, okay, we have the ones from December the 3rd. Do you see that?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. Do you recognize, and don't say it out loud, do you recognize Sergeant De La Rosa's phone number?
Yes, sir. I still remember it. I recognize it, yes.
Okay, and so the number that's written on this sheet here, on this exhibit, do you recognize that as his number?
Yes, sir. He used to have two, but that's one of them.
Okay. And I've written it off to the side. Again, that's a note to myself, but do you recognize that as his phone number?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Counsel, let me ask you, where are you looking? I'm not finding it.
I'm looking on tab 3
Volume 3.
of the third notebook.
All right.
And you'll see on the index there, we have as 3 as the phone logs. These are not being offered into evidence, but they are being used to allow him to refresh his memory.
That's the next, yeah, that, and then even further back.
He's looking at December.
And they're in chronological
All
order.
right, thank you.
Just for your edification, that 212 number is still.
All right.
So just to kind of help us, pin things down a little bit, this document reflects calls going in and calls going out. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and we'll just reference this by the invoice has the calls coming in and going out as an item numbered, 1 through whatever it is. You see that?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. Now, on December the 3rd, which is a Wednesday, at line 97, that shows Wednesday, December the 3rd. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then down, if you go down from there, and it looks like there is a call from De La Rosa's number that happens at 5:34. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then if you go down further, there's another call that at line 104, which is also from De La Rosa's number. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that one is showing at 6:25? Is
Yes.
the incoming call?
625, that's correct.
Okay. And if you go down further, it looks like there's another one at,
This one? It's 825.
oh, is that an 8?
825.
Okay, 8:25?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry, stand corrected. You can, if you can see it better than I can, that's.
To Raulitos.
Okay, so it looks like according to these business records, that a incoming call from the sergeant's number came into you around 8:25 on the 3rd.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that correct?
That's correct.
And then there's another call from your number to that number at line 109. You see that?
Yes, sir.
At 8:53?
Yes.
Okay, and this one just says McAllen, would that, do you know, is that a call from you to him or back, or do you know, can you tell?
If that other one says incoming, this one doesn't say incoming, I would say that's probably from me to him.
And I believe you testified that you weren't sure if you called him back or he called you back, but do you recall that you had 2 separate conversations with him?
That's correct, sir.
And the conversation, you're comfortable that the first one was from him to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then the second one was the second one after you had told him about checking for cameras?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that phone log kind of blocked out more or less the time frame as far as the phone record
Yes, sir.
is concerned. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, in response to questions from Mr. Curtis, you had indicated that there came a point in time when you had cautioned Sergeant De La Rosa about his work relationship with Officer Carina?
One time.
Okay. And what was it that led you to caution him about the way you did?
Through the officers, understood that he was having a relationship with her. I think it was reported to me that she was staying at his place, that they had seen her dropping him off at work. When we were doing this little investigation regarding the hit-and-run accident that was reported, people from Quiznos, they're close to Pecan and McCall, told us that they often went to eat there together. And I don't know at Luby's if they had gone there together to eat or not, or the purpose of them being together at Luby's. So
Now,
that,
had you personally witnessed any of this yourself?
no, sir, I didn't.
So whatever information you had, was that secondhand information?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And so what, can you describe why it was that at some point you cautioned him about his work relationship?
It is just not good practice for a supervisor, in my opinion, especially opposite sex, to have a relationship or become closer than just a regular supervisory position. And the officer, I don't think it's just, a lot of things can go wrong, and I just didn't feel it was correct.
So what did you tell him?
That it was best for him not to continue whatever he was doing.
Okay. Did you caution him against having too much of a social relationship with her outside of the
I
work
just told him to be careful. It was best for him to stay away from her.
And did you leave it at that?
That was it.
Did
One
you
time
think-
only.
Did you think that it required any further,
That-
action on your part beyond that?
at that point, I felt I had done my part and I wasn't gonna continue reminding him or telling him.
Okay. Did you feel that you had done what you needed to do as far as, you know, your supervisory authority over him as a sergeant?
Yes, sir.
And do you have some idea of when you might have made this comment to him or given him this advice?
I think it was during this investigation about the reported hit and run around that time, or right after, around
Okay.
that time.
Okay, do you know if it would have happened before the December 3rd or around the time of the December?
Around December 3rd area, time.
Now, council had also asked you some questions about a complaint that Sergeant De La Rosa had filed against Sergeant Torres.
Yes,
Do you
he
know
did.
what that's about?
Yes,
What is that about?
during, I think I was off that day. Sergeant Torres, Sergeant De La Rosa were working. I don't know if there was anybody else on duty. Some officers got involved in on a pursuit, south side of McAllen.
Okay.
And I think Sergeant De La Rosa's complaint basically was that Sergeant Torres had not done his duty as far as investigate the pursuit or take we call it to monitor the pursuit
Okay,
as required. He basically said that he was implying that Sergeant Torres should have taken over, monitor the pursuit, and not just. I think the complaint said that that they were both responding, and Sergeant Torres just sort of went another route, and I think Sergeant La Rosa ended up being there at the scene before Torres.
okay. What time frame did that happen, do you know? And I don't need a month or a day, I just need, was it before December 3rd or after December 3rd, or if you can?
It must have. I'm not too sure, sir, but I think it was before December the 3rd. But I'm not.
You can't say for sure without looking at records right now.
No, but earlier somebody brought it up that it was in retaliation because he had been written up. So based on that, I would say that it probably happened before the December the 3rd.
Okay. Well, did you investigate it? Did you look
Yes, I
into the
did.
complaint?
Yes, I did.
As a lieutenant, would you have been the person responsible to look into it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you find the complaint founded or unfounded, or what did you?
I could not sustain it, sir. Based on the officers that were present, there was nothing that I think one of his complaints was that he didn't do his job and that he was belittled in front of the officers. I think that basically what he was saying that Sergeant De La Rosa had done to him.
Okay. And so did you take any action beyond as far as recommending discipline or
No, sir.
counseling anyone?
I concluded just by saying that based on my investigation and the officers present, I could not sustain any wrongdoing by Sergeant De La Rosa.
Okay. And when this other issue about the December 3rd incident came up and Sergeant Torres reported to you information that he had about it, your first contact with Torres about this was after Torres got information from Barajas, is that right?
No, sir. On that same day of the accident, like I said, I called Sergeant Torres that same evening, December the
Okay.
3rd. That was
Okay.
my first contact with him after it was reported on that same date.
Okay, and then subsequently, Sergeant Torres did his own IDC on this,
Yes,
as far as what he had learned and what he knew about it, correct?
yes, sir.
Okay, did you see that material? Did you review that material?
I'm not too sure if I did, sir. If it's in here, if it's included in here, yes.
Yeah, why don't you look at the tab there that has Sergeant Torres? I believe it's tab number 10.
Yes, sir, that was, that's Sergeant Torres, IDC.
Okay. Did you believe, or did you get a sense about whether Sergeant Torres was somehow retaliating against Sergeant De La Rosa under these circumstances?
No, sir, I don't believe that, because I was the one that initiated this with him. He didn't, it wasn't the other way around. I was the one that got him involved with this. He didn't.
Did you think about or consider whether or not whatever information Torres was giving you might have been colored or affected by, you know, whatever it was that had happened involving Sergeant De La Rosa's complaint?
I didn't think about that, sir.
Would this have been the first time that you had one of your sergeants complain about another sergeant?
No, sir, I don't think so, because I think there was another complaint that Sergeant De La Rosa filed against Torres also, so it wouldn't be the first one.
Now you supervise a number of sergeants on any particular shift, correct?
Yes,
Okay, I mean, there's more than two.
yes,
All right, I noticed in the email that I think there were 4 or 5 sergeants on that shift.
yes, sir.
Okay, so when you're on watch and you have the shift, I mean, it looks like you may have as many as 3 or 4, or maybe even 5 sergeants
Yes,
at
sir.
work. Is that normal?
Yes.
Okay, so in your experience as a lieutenant, I mean, have you had situations where a sergeant may file a complaint against another sergeant? Not just De La Rosa, but any other sergeants?
I cannot really remember any formal complaints from one sergeant to the other, so I don't think it's common. No, I can't remember of any
Okay.
formal
Have you-
complaints.
Okay, have you as a supervisor had to be in a situation where you have to reconcile competing issues or competing views between the sergeants about what to do or not do?
I didn't quite understand, between, amongst themselves, or,
Yes, amongst themselves, the ones that are under your supervision.
no, sir, not often.
Was Sergeant Torres's involvement in this investigation limited to the information that he gave to you?
No, sir.
Okay. Did he do the underlying investigation into the accident?
He did, the hit and run, the offense report for the hit and run.
Okay,
The offense report, he generated that one he was instructed by me to generate one of those reports, or,
okay. And that's something you told him to do?
yes, sir.
All right. But I had understood that Joe Hernandez was doing the accident reconstruction investigation.
Joe Hernandez was trying to determine if we could somehow solve the accident, since I and others disagreed based on the damage that it had occurred the way it was reported. So that's what Joe was trying to.
Okay. But Torres was not involved in that?
Well, Torres, to some extent, because him and I went out there and we were trying to find an accident scene, so yes, I guess
Okay.
he was also involved.
Whatever he did along with you.
He didn't, as far as the accident report, he had nothing to do with the accident report that I know of.
Now, council also asked you some questions about what is an accident, and I think that you had talked to him about what the transportation code provides?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the transportation code has one standard of what is a crash or an accident that you're familiar with, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, departmental policy is something else, is it not?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I believe I kind of tagged with a little blue sticky there on the other notebook in front of you. This is tab 3. Okay. And just to kind of help move things along here, I've tagged this page 225. Do you recognize this as a departmental policies?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you at page 225?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay. And what is departmental policy as far as an officer's responsibility involving a vehicle that's been involved in any kind of a crash or collision?
Well, there's many things to do. I don't know which one you're, want me to,
Okay, on
Refer to
page
it.
225 at Exhibit 3,
yes.
on notebook number 1, do you have that, sir?
I'm trying to find it. Notebook
It's
one.
It's notebook 1,
Behind what tab?
Exhibit 3.
Exhibit 3. Okay. I have it.
Okay, and then just the pages are numbered consecutively. At E, do you see E? It says Police Department, motor vehicles involved in accidents?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay, and then it says number 1, officers and employees' responsibility?
Yes.
Okay, and right below that, it starts out by telling you what that responsibility is. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and what is that responsibility?
Says anytime an officer or employee of the department operator a department vehicle becomes involved in an accident, no matter how minor, the following procedures will be initiated.
Okay. So is departmental policy more strict than what the transportation code provides?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It is.
And the officers are governed by departmental policy, are they not?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, on the next page, on page 226, do you see there at subparagraph F?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and which provides that an officer will require, the supervisor will require an officer to submit to a post-accident drug test. You see that?
That's,
At F.
yes, sir.
Okay. And that is the practice at the department, is it not?
If the officer's operating a vehicle, yes.
Okay. And pretty much any minor collision or crash or contact triggers the obligation to get drug tested, does it not?
If they are operating the vehicle, yes.
Okay. Well, and I think that's what this section is about, the operation of the vehicle, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, below that, at page 226, it also has a section 2 that says shift sergeant's responsibility. You see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so then, if you go through this, and I'm not gonna take you through all the details, but, I mean, this lays out what the responsibility is of the shift sergeant who is over the officer that has just had a crash or collision. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So just to be clear, the definition of what is an accident that requires a crash report under the transportation code, that's one standard, correct?
Yes,
Okay, but the department has a different standard as far as what qualifies as a crash or collision, is that correct?
if it's an accident, yes.
Okay. But has that been your experience, that the departmental standard is stronger or tighter than the transportation code?
Yes, sir, we're, under department policy, we make, crash reports for all accidents, no matter how minor, even though our instructions for officers, we're not really required unless involves injury or damage over $1,000 to property,
Okay.
any one person's
Okay,
property.
but we're talking about two different standards.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And all officers that work for McAllen PD have to comply or should comply with the standards in the policy, right?
If it's determined to be an accident, yes, sir.
Now, council also asked you some questions about the crash report. And he represented to you that Officer Hernandez had himself assigned a number that was different than what was on the crash report. First of all, let me ask you this. Have you seen Hernandez's report?
No, sir, I have no idea if Hernandez even made a report. I have no knowledge of that, sir.
Okay. So you never saw Hernandez's final
I
work
have,
product?
no, sir.
Okay. And so you don't know what he concluded or what he found?
No, sir.
Okay. So you don't know what's in his report?
I didn't even know there was a report, if there's one, sir.
Okay. So if Mr. Curtis told you that the report said a certain thing, I mean, you don't know whether that's correct or not?
No, sir, I don't.
Well, I'll represent to you that Hernandez's report of December 11 says that based on the damage, it was evident that the vehicle was impacted at a 10 o'clock direction of force. Okay? That the vehicle was impacted. The vehicle that was impacted was the police unit, was it not?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the reference to the 10 o'clock direction of force has to do with the vehicle that was hit, not the vehicle that hit the police vehicle.
When we were referring earlier, he pointed out the hit-and-run vehicle. If you ask me about the damage to the unit, I agree with Hernandez 100%. That would be 10 o'clock, more or less. The damage to the patrol unit would be 10 o'clock.
Okay.
And we were,
But not on the vehicle that's, the vehicle that fled. That wouldn't apply to.
absolutely not, sir.
So if Hernandez said that based on the damage, the vehicle that was impacted, meaning Officer Carina's vehicle, that the direction of force seemed to be at about 10 o'clock.
Yes, sir, I totally agree with that now.
Okay. But other than what the lawyers here represent to you about what these reports are, you don't have any way of knowing because you had never looked at it, right?
I have never seen a report by Hernandez.
Okay. Now, as far as the scheduling, let's go back to your tab here, at tab number 8. And turn to your IDC of March 2, 09.
I don't know which book we're talking about.
Yours. That's your
Okay.
IDC of March 2. I believe that's admitted. And this relates back to the scheduling issue, does it not?
Yes, sir, it does.
Okay. Is this the one where you had testified earlier that Sergeant De La Rosa had actually been scheduled for vacation on the Monday following that weekend? But
No.
came in anyway?
Well, it was not the Monday following, sir. He had been scheduled for the Monday before this happened.
Okay. Well, let me, and I just, this is what I'm trying to clarify. The dates on that, on which you thought he was going to be coming into work was February 7 and 8, correct?
Yes, sir.
And those are the dates that he did not, in fact, show up for work, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and as best you can recall, I mean, that was never pre-cleared through you.
No, sir.
Okay, and in the report to work form that he reported as having worked on the 6th, that would have been a day that he was not originally scheduled to work.
No, sir, he was not doing his regular job at work. He was
Okay.
at hearing.
That's the date of his hearing.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that hearing involved a different, involved a one-day suspension involving Officer De La Rosa in connection with his own vehicle accident. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that vehicle accident involved something that happened earlier in the year I think in July also.
24.
Okay, and it involved his own operation of the vehicle. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so he was at his own hearing on that Friday, the 6th, but he was not scheduled to work.
Correct.
Okay. You expected him to show up for work the next day, Saturday and Sunday.
Unless it was cleared by somebody.
Okay, was it, well, let's talk about, was it cleared by you?
No, sir.
Now, in this report, this IDC, you say, in the second paragraph, you say, on February 24th, De La Rosa returned from a meeting with Chief Rodriguez. He was sitting in the sergeant's work area when he asked me if I was going to write him up for not showing up to work on February 7 and 8. You see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that, where is the sergeant's work area?
And they're at the police department, 61 North Bicentennial. Every shift commander has their designated areas. The sergeants have their own areas also.
Okay, and is that where you ran into him, or where you all talked to each other?
We operate out of there, so I guess I was there with him.
Okay, now you say that in here that he told you, or that you told him, that you needed an IDC explaining why he hadn't reported to work on those days,
Yes, sir.
okay? And that's when he told you that he had tried calling you on Saturday the 7th to ask for the days off,
Yes, sir.
okay? I mean, this is out of your report, correct?
That's my report, yes.
Okay. Had you, as best you knew, had you gotten any calls from him?
I was working Saturday evening. I remember being at the carnival. I had the phone with me. I did not get any calls from him unless, no, I didn't get any calls from him.
Okay, and then you say that in the next paragraph, you say on February 24th that Sergeant De La Rosa also told you that on February 2nd, I guess that's the week before, right?
The same week, but it's actually Monday of that week.
Okay. In other words, the Monday before that hearing date. That same week, but the Monday.
That's correct, sir.
Okay, I got you now. And that he had returned to work and you questioned him about why he was reporting to work, because you thought he was on a vacation status.
He had requested vacation.
Okay, and had you approved it?
Yes,
Okay. And instead he's showing up for work.
yes, sir.
Okay. And so he's saying, he told you at that time that you had not confirmed the day, so he had gone ahead and come in.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I guess at this time, you went ahead and told him that if he needed the day to go ahead and take it.
Yes.
And that would have been on that day, on that Monday, when
Monday.
he showed up, correct? So do you know, did he in fact end up taking a day?
No, sir.
Did he end up staying at work?
He stayed and we even asked him to remove his vacation status from Kronos. Let him know that personnel, to inform personnel, in
Okay.
other words, not to charge it against his vacation because he was at work.
Okay, so he ended up staying at work, he didn't leave again?
He didn't leave.
Okay. But he handled this correctly, did he not, in terms of that he wasn't sure, so he came in?
That is a proper way to handle it, yes, sir.
Okay, and so as far as the February 2nd time, that was handled appropriately, was it not?
Yes, sir.
If in doubt, come in?
If it's not a yes, assume it's a no,
Okay.
basically.
Was there any question in your mind that he knew what to do?
There's no question.
Did you learn later that the approvals for being off on the 7th and the 8th were handled retroactively? In other words, that some approvals went through by other sergeants or other supervisors, but they were handled retroactively?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you know that that was going to happen at the time that it happened?
No, I didn't.
Now, in this report, you apparently had some kind of discussion with him in that, let me see, the paragraph towards from the middle down, it says Sergeant De La Rosa states on his IDC. Okay, you say here that, that he says on his IDC that during your conversation on Monday the 2nd, that he had mentioned to you that he would be taking the weekend off and that you had nodded your head up and down and therefore led him to believe that it was okay for him to be off.
That's
Okay.
one of the things he said.
Okay, he said that to you and, later on, that you had nodded your head and he took that as that's fine. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. What's your response to that? Is it possible that you somehow communicated to him that this was okay, but you
I
didn't mean
don't-
to do it, or what happened?
I don't remember doing that. All I know is that he first says that I missed his call. Then he says that when he called me, the first time he said that I missed his calls, that he tried calling me. Second time he says that the call went straight to voicemail. The second thing he said. Then the third thing he said was not in my head, so I don't know which one out of the three would have been correct if it's, he changed things 3 times.
Did any of those things, did you have any, agree at all with any of those things?
No.
Has it been your experience with Sergeant De La Rosa that he will suggest things like this to you, that you said this or you did
Leading.
that?
Leading.
Please don't leave.
Well, those 3 things right
What?
there, he's not being consistent, and I
Objection.
think,
What's the
Let
objection?
me,
Well, he's not supposed to lead, he's trying to answer the question
Let
that
me
was objected
rephrase the
to.
question.
All right, withdraw the question. Ask
I'll
again.
withdraw. When you talked to Sergeant De La Rosa about this time, he communicated to you that he had called you. Did you have any independent confirmation that he had tried to call you?
no, sir.
Okay.
And I want to add one more thing on that.
Okay, then he later, in this report, you say that he later suggested to you that you had approved this by nodding your head up and down. Do you recall nodding your head up and down?
No, sir.
What would be the usual way in which you would approve or not approve a request?
I have done it verbally, yes. But we also do it filling out the absentee form. And also, another thing we do is entering the, on the calendar. We have a calendar there in the sergeant's office, and we fill out on the date that we are going to be out on vacation or approved vacation, we enter it on the calendar. That way, whoever does the roster or the beat assignment for the day, they will know the status of that officer on that day, officer or sergeant, or if I'm off, I'll
Okay.
do it myself.
And did you look at that calendar?
I believe I looked at it after, when all this came about. I think the calendar was still around the office.
Does it look like a desk calendar?
It's a big calendar, a large one. But if I remember correctly, since Sergeant Torres was in charge of the chronos, counting for every officer and sergeant, I want to say he made copies of the calendar to indicate that there was no entry there on the calendar.
Okay, hold on a second. I want to say I've seen that.
Sure.
Okay, let me, show you here. And I'm looking at, the IA binder that's been date stamped. Tab 5, starting at date stamp page 40. That looks like a calendar to me. Do you know, is that, and I understand it's just a copy of a piece of it. Do you recognize that? there's more pages behind it.
Per second. Missing one.
These are the only pages that I can, does that look familiar or not?
That's,
The calendar you're describing
That's
is one of the
February.
big ones that has the
Right.
whole month on it that.
I'm assuming the whole thing is February, even though it's broken up into all sorts of pieces here.
Right,
Day in question is Friday and Saturday. If it's February of 2009, those are the dates that we're talking about. And I don't see Sergeant De La Rosa's name on the calendar.
and what is this calendar that's maintained?
Well, we sort of refer to it as a master calendar. That's for the sergeants to know the status of that officer on that particular day. So when he fills out the beat assignment sheet, he can account for that officer
Okay,
and sort of enter him the status. That way we know how many officers we have to report to the captain, the manpower in the shift, who's on vacation, how many out on workers' comp, how many are days off, how many are present. That makes it easier for the supervisors filling out that form. In this case, I think it was Sergeant Torres, for him to know the status of everybody. That way he'll make it easier for him on a daily basis to.
okay, and so, did you look at that calendar to try to confirm or whether or not he had been authorized to be off?
Not on those days, because I was off on Saturday when I got called.
Did you look at it at some point?
Yes, I saw it. I was there when Sergeant Torres made copies of that.
Okay, and what, did it confirm or not whether he had gotten leave?
It was not written on there. So,
If it had been properly approved, would his name have been on there?
yes, sir.
Okay. I'll pass the witness.
Any Ray Cross?
A little bit, sir. Lieutenant, I guess I want to climb this mountainous molehill just a little bit more. If you would look at the folder 2 that has the different officer statements, including your own, I want to go first to, you see the tab for Sergeant Arenas? Just one, he has one page there. You see that towards the front?
Not in us. Yes, sir, I do.
Are you with me there? There's an IDC dated 2/18/09.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and it looks like at the bottom of the page, you reviewed this the same day, correct? 2/18.
That's what it. Yes, that's the date on there, sir.
Okay, and there basically he's talking about he approved the back to work form for Sergeant De La Rosa. Is that the gist of that?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, then flip over to Sergeant M.A. Garcia. Y'all call him M.A., right? You see his tab?
Yes, sir.
And go to the last, well, first of all, you approved that on 3/2/09, or you looked at it, right?
It says 3/3/2009. That's Sergeant.
That's,
That's yes.
some-
It says 3/2/09
okay,
approved by the captain or reviewed by the captain, and 3/3
which is the same day that you submitted an IDC that we've been talking about quite a bit, that you submitted to the police chief. Did you look at Sergeant Garcia's IDC before you put yours together?
I don't,
Don't remember?
I don't remember
Okay.
what sequence or, no, I
Okay.
don't remember.
Well, look at the last 4 lines there. He says, "I know that in the past, discrepancies to work schedules / hours can and have been resolved afterwards when back to work absentee forms are submitted to shift commanders and or personnel. There have been times when employees have been late, sick, or absent for other reasons, comp or vacation, and they had not previously submitted requests to leave." Is that a true or false statement?
There's emergencies that happen and people cannot come to the station to
I
do the.
didn't ask you to explain, sir. I said, is that a true or false statement?
That is true.
Okay. Would you agree with me that that has become the practice of the department?
In certain situations, yes.
All right. Now, also, you just, you told council that you never looked at Hernandez's report. Is that correct?
I don't remember seeing a report from Hernandez at all.
Okay. Go with me under his tab to bait stamp 104.
What,
It's in the same book. It's under Hernandez's tab.
which IDC is it?
I'm sorry.
Which date of the IDC is it?
It is December 21st, 2008, from Officer J. Hernandez to Chief of Police V. Rodriguez.
Gotcha.
You see that? The bait stamp number 104, and it's got the signature lines down at the bottom. Are those your initials, sir? That date reviewed 12/23/08?
Yes, sir, that looks like my initials.
Okay, so you did review what Hernandez reported.
Well, I reviewed the IDC. I don't know about any accident report. I don't think I see an accident report here.
Okay, but you reviewed this?
The IDC, it's signed by me, so I reviewed the IDC, but we were referring to an accident report. I never saw an accident report from him.
Okay.
That I remember, no.
And did you read over this report?
Sir?
Did you read over this report before you signed it?
I read it briefly, yes.
Okay. And including that last sentence, "At this time, I still cannot locate the unit that may have caused this impact or been able to reconstruct the collision with another vehicle."
Okay, where are you reading that one from, sir?
Just that last sentence there on page 104.
Yes, sir, that's what it says on there.
Okay, thanks. Now, I want to ask you just a couple questions about the policy, the department's policy about motor vehicles involved in an accident, because you told me earlier that you said anything is possible, that Karina Castaneda could have been deceptive in her information she provided to Sergeant De La Rosa. Do you remember we talked about that before lunch?
Yes, sir.
Looking at that policy that's, that council went over with you on page 225 and 226 of the policy manual, and I guess that's exhibit 3
On which
in
folder?
in the first book, number 1.
Okay. Exhibit number what, sir?
It's exhibit number 3, which is your rules and regs and civil service stuff. That page 225 and 226.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I want to ask you about whether or not you thought she had duties and she might have violated. Let's assume it's as she testified yesterday that she hit a fire hydrant and bent that push guard, okay? Sub 1, sub A of section E there, the officer or employee will check for any injuries at the scene, request an ambulance, okay? She said she got out of the car, there apparently weren't any injuries, so she really didn't have any duty there, correct? If she wasn't hurt.
As far as the injury part, no.
Okay. In sub B, the officer or employee involved will immediately notify the communications center of the accident as well as requesting a supervisor to the scene. Did she do that?
Not that I know of, no, sir.
Okay, and you were monitoring the radio that day, correct?
Yes, I was on
Okay.
duty, sir.
Sub C is about directing traffic. We don't know whether she had to do that. Sub D, the vehicle involved should not be moved until the investigating officer arrives and concludes the investigation. Did she violate policy there?
Yes, sir.
She drove eventually to Luby's, did she not?
According to what was reported, yes, sir.
Okay. How about sub E? The officer or employee involved will relay the facts of the accident clearly and honestly to his supervisor and to the officer investigating the accident. Did she do that?
I don't know what she told Sergeant De La Rosa out there, sir.
Well,
I don't know the details.
all right, but knowing what you know now, did she clearly and honestly relay the facts of what happened to anybody?
On her IDC and all that, sir, I disagree with what she turned in. So,
Okay, so you think she violated policy?
yes, sir.
Okay. F says the supervisor shall require the officer or employee to strictly comply with post-accident testing. That's the NTC stuff that we've talked about.
That is
Correct.
correct, sir.
And I think you made a qualifier if she was operating the vehicle.
If she was operating the vehicle.
Okay. So if it was in fact a hit and run, she wouldn't have to drug test.
No, sir. If a hit and run can go both ways, sir.
Correct.
But if she's not driving the vehicle and it's hit by a, properly parked, hit by another vehicle, she's not required. If she
Alright.
commits a hit and run herself, then she's required, definitely required.
Gotcha. Okay. So, so Castaneda clearly violated some or all parts of this policy
Yes, sir.
with the December accident.
Yes.
I'll pass the witness.
Any ready to write?
Yes, we've obtained the original record. I don't want to put it in the evidence.
All right.
We'll have him testify about it, and it has the little sticky.
All right.
Let me show you, we retrieved this record, and it's got a blue sticky note on it. Do you recognize that document?
Yes, I do.
Okay, now, and you had earlier testified that when you go through these, you put a little strike thing off to the side?
Yes, sir.
Okay, does this copy, or this original, does it have your markings on it?
Yes, it does.
Okay, where are those? Can you just,
They're on the right of the form there.
okay, it looks like you've got one over here at the top. by where it says,
It's referring to a commercial vehicle.
Mr. Arbitrator,
Correction, the hit and run.
Excuse me, just a
may
minute.
I look at that
Sure
before he
you can.
testifies from it?
maybe I'll get a copy of this one and put it into the record. With this little sticky note on a separate page, so it doesn't cover up
All right.
the page. But the marks that are yours are outside the line on the far margin of the document, correct?
Yes,
Okay. And it looks like you've got one up at the top relating to
hit and runs.
hit and run. You've got one over here by the speed limit.
Speed limit, the hospital, I don't think, it's an official speed limit that's posted by the hospitals. I don't think that's really an official speed limit there.
Okay,
for that.
so you made a little mark by that. It looks like you put a mark by the line that says, in your opinion, did this crash result in at least $1,000 damage to any one person or property? And it says no, you put a little mark by that.
I have a question, I don't know what the estimates for the city were, but I think over $1,000 damage. I don't really know, but I had a question on
You
that,
questioned that.
based on what I saw.
And then you put another mark at the very bottom where it says report complete.
Yes,
And that one has the yes check.
that one is not complete because we have not resolved the hit and run. In this case, we were lacking another vehicle that was reported, so until we find out what that other vehicle is, then it will become a complete report.
Okay, so you disagreed with the report indicating it was complete.
Yes, sir. And
Okay,
this one,
now, on top of this, there's this blue sticky note. Had you see that?
yes,
Okay, and on that, it says, pending diagram, Sergeant De La Rosa, need Lieutenant Lara's review and approval. Had you previously seen that?
and it might even still be on there, sir. I think it's still on, I saw it, yes.
Okay, and so what does that mean as far as, what does that mean to you, that it needs your review and approval?
Usually when a officer investigates an accident, a supervisor, or I do many of them also, I review accident reports. If the officer does not complete a report for whatever reason, he's lacking information, he needs to work on it the following day, that's what we do, leave it pending. In other words, records knows that they cannot release a copy of this report to anybody yet. It's not complete as far as the officer's work. And this one, since I'm his supervisor, he's basically telling me that it needs my review also and approval. However, on fleet accidents, if there's quite a bit of damage, not a simple clear-cut accident, I usually ask for the review of Sergeant Alejandro and Officer Hernandez to make sure that before we release it, they agree with me.
You didn't have that yet?
No, I hadn't gotten to that yet.
Would you recognize the damage on that push guard if you saw it?
Yes,
You think so?
I saw it.
I'll represent to you that the push guard is sitting over there by that wall. I don't know how heavy it is. Can you walk over there and take a look at it? I'm not
Sure
gonna try to lift it.
Before he does that, Mr. Arbitrator, can we have that blue postum copied and added into the evidence?
Mark it
Because,
as a separate exhibit if you want.
okay.
It was my understanding you were gonna do that.
I can do that.
All right.
I'm just gonna put the postum on a separate page.
That'd be fine.
All right.
See if you recognize that push guard over there. I know it's off the vehicle, so I don't know if that makes a difference for you. push guard look like the damaged push guard that you saw on the vehicle?
It doesn't look like it. That is a push bar. The green and red paint is still on there. The
Okay,
damage is what I saw that day.
okay. I'll pass it with.
Just one follow-up about the crash report and your investigation of it. You said earlier that we combined the other two accidents, the Los Cazadores and Spirits, together with this one and believed it showed misconduct. Do you remember saying something like that?
Yes, I remember once Officer Barajas informed Sergeant Torres that he had reason to believe that or he was told or called or somehow Officer Karina had told him that she had been involved in another accident. That's when the other two came about, which is referring to Cazadores and the one on North 10th Street.
You're talking about we've been referring to as Spirits?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's when Officer Barajas told Sergeant Torres that he had reason to believe it was a cover-up on the Cazadores. That's when we sort of said, if he believes it's a cover-up based on what he knows, and I have reason to believe that's a cover-up over here at the one on December, that's what started the whole investigation.
Okay, Lieutenant, I'll accept that. Why wasn't Sergeant Arenas, who didn't even call you about the Spirits incident, and Sergeant De La Rosa called you that day as you testified about Los Cazadores, why does the cover-up only extend to him and does not include Sergeant Arenas, who didn't even report Spirits to you? Because you said we combined the other two together and believed it showed misconduct. That doesn't make logical sense, sir.
There was no damage reported by anybody, and Arenas is the one that Arenas supposedly responded to.
Nor was there La Cazadores. What was the damage at La Cazadores?
According to what Officer Barajas told Torres, it was beyond the green paint. At first, I was told by Sergeant Torres, and I think it's here in one of the IDCs, that there was green paint, and there was I think it says a scrape or something, if I remember correctly, one of the IDCs talks about a scrape or something. So once we have a scrape, in my opinion, now we have an accident. Now there's damage to the vehicle, not only burned small amount of green paint.
Now,
Now,
what is that,
if
sir?
somebody's
What is that, sir? You've waved that in front of us 2 or 3 times. What is that?
That's basically because I figured this would come up. If he's reporting to me that the unit rubbed against the dumpster, yes, it's very likely that burnt paint rubs off very easily. I rub my hand against a dumpster on my way to work, against a paper. There's no damage to a paper. There's no damage, injury to my hand. It's possible that if something rubs against something, it's gonna, in this case, the burnt green paint from the dumpster. Okay? It is possible that what he was reporting, there could have been no damage, in my opinion, to the unit. But once that officer reported that there was a scrape and the green paint, then we have an accident.
Who said there was a scrape?
Officer Barajas reported to Sergeant Torres that the unit was damaged.
And Sergeant
That he-
Torres reported it to you. So we've got like triple hearsay. Did you ever
That's-
go to Barajas and say, did you see a scrape?
No, I never, like I said, that day it was not reported, or I did not see the damage. If there was any damage or any green paint to the unit, I never saw the damage.
So Arenas is not part of the conspiracy or the cover-up or the whitewash. No discipline of him, and everybody's here dumping on Sergeant De La Rosa after Karina flips on him.
If there is no damage, I don't think Sergeant Arenas had anything to hide, sir. No cover-up, if there was no damage.
But he didn't even bother to call you.
No, he didn't.
Okay, sir, if you would turn to the tab for Officer Barajas, and I'd direct you to Bait Stamp 32. It's an IDC dated 1509. You might flip over a couple pages. It's Bait Stamp 32 under Officer Barajas's tab. Yeah, there's a blue, it's behind a blue page. Keep going. Approach.
Yes.
Keep going. It's a couple pages over. Bait Stamp 32, right there. Okay. I want to direct your attention real quick to the second paragraph, sir. The last couple sentences, the green paint would come off when well, it's misspelled, scratched at it. I did not see any damage on, also misspelled, the bumper, other than the green paint. Is that consistent with what you just said?
No, sir. No, it's not.
Okay.
But I
Thank
know
you.
there was another
Thank you,
IDC.
I'll pass the witness.
Ready to wrap? All right, thank you very much for your testimony. Any objection to excuse this witness?
No, sir.
You'll be excused. Thank you, sir. In accordance with our discussion before, we'll be off the record.